your host, Jaime Soretta. On this podcast, we celebrate everything local. It all started with a cookie and grew into a restaurant where the diners dance in the aisles. Our next guest is Dana Dumas of SugarJam, the Southern Kitchen. Dana, it's so great to see you.
You too, Jaime.
Tell me a little bit about your story, because you're from New York City, ended up here, and started baking.
Yeah.
So why Phoenix, and where are you from?
So I am from New York City. I've lived in New Jersey for some time, but New York is, that's the birthplace.
Yeah.
And then I'm an only child, and my parents always said, oh, when we retire or Suda retire, we're going to be going to Scottsdale. And I was just like, okay. So my last year in college, my parents were out here for several weeks, one of their many vacations. And I had came out, and I was like, you know what? I could probably do this. So at the time, I was in school for becoming a teacher. And I had to ask my parents, are you going to retire now? Or is this going to be some years from now? Because I'm not moving there unless I know you're going to be there.
Right.
So my mom was, she was a professional at Columbia. And so she was like, no, I have a couple more years to go before I can retire. But when we do, we're moving there. So upon their retirement time frame is when me and my husband at that time, we were newly married, had moved here to Scottsdale. And, my journey was first in corporate when I was here. I was a senior account executive for a company in the NASCAR industry.
What?
Yeah. And then after that came to, they had wanted to relocate, and I didn't want to relocate with the company. I ended up going with another company, and I was a director of business development in the travel industry. And it was a fun career. I had a super amount of good times and traveling a lot and everything like that, putting deals together. But after I had my twin boys, I ended up, I don't think I was valued the same in that position, and just life was different. And I wanted to do something for myself. And I think having my children always really brought out the entrepreneurship in me. I've always tinkered around with one foot in, one foot out, because you have that security of corporate.
Right.
But this was a time that I think I started to say, I'm going to venture and try something. And it wasn't until I actually catered my girlfriend's bridal shower during her desserts when her aunt was like, where are these cookies from? And my girlfriend was like, they're from Dana. And she's like, girl, you could bake like this. You should start your own company. And I was like, whatever. And at that point, I really didn't listen. I had got myself another job. It wasn't a career. And I realized I really hated this. I was like, I want to be my own person. And I just leapt out with 2 feet. And I started off in the local farmers market. And because I figured if I have a website, that's great, but there's a million websites. How would anybody even get to know me? And I got all my credentials and everything. I was one of the first 500 people on the Arizona Cottage Law, which allowed people to bake non-hazardous foods from home to be a part of the new movement in the farmers market. And I started out at the Phoenix Public Market, downtown Phoenix, December 2011, and it was a great experience. I was a part of the first Festivus that is still
so
going
much
on.
fun.
Yeah, so much fun,
Yes.
but it still goes on today.
Yeah.
I met so many wonderful people, and these are people that were CEOs of businesses. And when we had the market collapse in the housing market, it really put a different strain on people not knowing what their next turn was going to be. And to hear their stories and their journeys from that time to 2011, 2012, how they found their passions and they resurrected just like the Phoenix, and they were becoming successful in doing something that they actually enjoyed, and they reevaluated life and what was really important. And you know what? They found solace in the market, and that's what I was doing. I just took it a step further. That one market wasn't enough. I started to network, and I found out there was more markets, and there was emerging markets. And before you knew it, within about a year and a half, I was in about 6 markets around the valley, and I only did 1 summer down here. And those big blow fans that come down the aisle, that wasn't enough.
No.
That wasn't enough. I said, no, this is not enough. And then that's when I found out about up north.
Up north.
And
Flagstaff markets.
And Munns Park. And so I was able to get the credentials for being up there and all the licensing and everything. And my next year, I started in the Munns Park market, and people would start to know me as the cookie and pie girl. And then from that point, I found out about Art in the Park in Flagstaff and realized that most of my customers that were in the valley were all up there in the summertime. So it was great. And to actually get out. So during the week, I would be baking and heat sealing and packaging and making like all my boxes and stuff like that to transport up and seal everything. And literally the night before we were leaving, I'm baking like all the fresh pies and all that stuff. And we would go up and do the markets up in the summertime. And I really produced a lot of revenue for me and gave us a chance to. It shortened our summer in the valley because we were getting coolness up north and a chance to get away. And so it was really nice. My parents sometimes would bring the kids up and then like we would do like a spend the night or whatever else. And it was good. But it allowed me to grow my customer base and get my name spread. And as the years grew, I was needing to get out of my house because I was like, okay, I had rolling racks. It was crazy. And thank God for my dad. My dad literally would watch my kids from Thursdays to Sundays with my parents. And that allowed me to be doing from the super farm to Intel, baking and doing all this stuff, which was amazing. But I needed to get out of my house. And lo and behold, I ran into an old coworker of mine and he had said, "What are you doing with yourself?" And I was like, "Oh, I've been baking." He's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can really bake." And I had twin boys and everything. And now we are in a situation where I need to get out. And he was like, "You know what? I literally have a place. My boyfriend has a place and it's a kitchen." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I don't think it's too far maybe from where you are. I'm in a Desert Ridge area." And so he was like, I said, let me see it. So I jumped in with 2 feet. I signed my first sublease and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm growing up."
Yeah,
I
big girl.
And then I transitioned my licensing from being an at-home baker to a commercially licensed baker. And I brought all my own equipment. I never forget getting my first oven. It was like the biggest thing for me, and I hunted on Craigslist for like a commercial oven and we found it and it was my husband and his friend and we just thought, oh, he had a pickup truck. We just thought, well, we just roll this thing up on the pickup truck. It's no big deal. It took 6 guys to get this heavy beast on there and then we had to get people to get it off of there. It was crazy. And I remember getting my first mixers, my commercial mixers. Let me tell you how I got that. So it was a gentleman I used to work with. His name was Jason. He knew I was doing cookies. He tried my cookies. He loved them. And he was really into networking with the Scottsdale Chamber and doing all these things. He became involved with the M Catering Group. And one day they just had a discussion and he was talking about knowing me and my cookies. And I didn't know that one of the gentlemen that worked for that catering group was in the farmer's market getting fresh vegetables and stumbled upon me. Didn't say who he was. Came back and said, "I think I met the lady that Jason was talking about. Her cookies are fantastic." They invited me up to the M Culinary Group and I went to their facility and I was just like, "Oh my God, like this is amazing." It's like 30,000+ square feet. It's in North Phoenix.
Because M Catering Group, they do like the arenas and everything.
They do the Phoenix Open. They're like big. I went in there, I'm just coming from small cheese. So I was like, "Oh my gosh." And they said, "We have a gift for you." And I was like, "Well, a gift for me?" And they were like, "Yeah, we've heard your story and we're really proud of you. We love your cookies and stuff like that. If we have something smaller, we'll try to use you for that. But at the end of the day, we hope this will help you in your future." They were these 2 huge Hobart mixers, big stand mixers. I was looking at these things like, "Oh my gosh, those are for me." I couldn't believe it. And I said, "Well, I can't physically take that in my car." And he said, "No, you'll need like a truck or whatever. We'll help you load and all that." So I told my dad about it. And so we got like a big pickup truck that has the ramp and stuff. And we got them and I had to bring them to my house. And then when I got my first chef kitchen, I was able to bring one of the mixers there. And that was my first time not using like my KitchenAid and learning to use this big commercial equipment. And it was really exciting because I was looking at how much power I had and how much more volume I can do. And then I also was able to hire my first person to help me. And I couldn't believe I was at a point that I'm paying my sublease. I'm able to pay a wage. I was like super stoked about it. And then we start to get into more events. So outside of the market, I started to transition because I started to become friends with a lot of the truckers, and I would be in their arena listening to them about what they did on the weekends with these events, and then how much revenue they're generating, like on a Friday and Saturday. And I'm like, I'm working the market Wednesday night. I go out Thursday. I'm out Friday, Saturday, sometimes on Sunday too. And I'm saying to myself, and I do this. Let me get onto one of these events. And I went on to their calendar, and I would look at their calendar, look at the events that they're scheduled for, and then I would call the people who are putting the events together. And I would say who I am, and I said, do you have anyone like me? I don't have a truck. I'm a market vendor, but I set up my booth just like a store. And I sent them pictures, and I sent them my cookies and my pies and stuff. And they said, okay, we would love to have you. I was in these places for a fraction of what the truckers were, and then my whole world started to open up. The amount of revenue that I was making in a short period of time at these events was astounding. I was like, oh my gosh. Plus, I'm in front of a whole nother market of people. And next thing you know, when you're turning in like the street eats, you got to turn in the coins. And you
your tokens.
Yeah, my tokens, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. I'm here with these jugs of tokens, and me and my husband are walking back, and then the truckers are looking like, what's this girl?
What's she
going
doing?
on? What's going on? What she have?
Yeah.
What truck are you? And I'm like, I'm not a truck. I'm a vendor.
So you mean food trucks when you say truckers?
Yeah, the food trucks.
Okay.
And then I'm walking to the back to get my tokens turned in. I got like this.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does she have? Like, some of them only have one bucket or whatever. And I was like, we were like beyond sold out, like not a crumb left. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm ending this event. I got to get back home. We literally, off of that type of event, because we had a whole nother day ahead of us, had to get back home. And on my way home, had to stop to the grocery store, get more stuff. I'm baking all the way until like 4 a.m. My husband's taking naps, getting up, heat sealing, packaging, ribbon tying, labeling. And I wouldn't have enough to take me to the whole event, but I had enough to get me my start, and we would just be sold out. Yeah. Like the event might be over at 5, I'm sold out by 1 or 2.
Wow.
And so we started doing that. I was able to hire more help, and I started to become known in the event market, like Fountain Hills Festival. Twice a year I was there. I mean, by Sunday we would be like sold out by 3 o'clock. And the amount of revenue generated really put me in a different bracket. And I started to notice that as I'm filling in with the farmers markets and with the event, my calendar was becoming bigger and bigger. And then people were asking me, hey, I have this wedding. Can you do my dessert table? Hey, I'm having this event or an anniversary and I'm doing this. I mean, I was busy. At that point, I had 3 people that were helping me, and I'm running out of space. The shared kitchen really was getting tighter and tighter for me. So I ended up looking for a place, and I looked in the Scottsdale Air Park because I knew they had, it was called Caterers Row. Oh. And I was like, it's like right off of Gray Road. And I was like, maybe I can get a place there. They were all like booked up. But then my realtor, she had found the place that ended up becoming SugarJam Bake Shop and Bistro. And I told her, I said, hey, I'm not looking for a restaurant. I just need a place to produce my stuff because I'm a street girl. I'm out on these streets and I do events.
I do fairs.
And so then my husband was like, yeah, but you know what? It's in the air park. It's not like you're on like street front. I think you'll be able to set your own hours and stuff, and you'll still be able to be on the street. Use it twofold. I mean, get to know your backyard, and maybe we do some sandwiches or something.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So when I opened, I did light sandwiches, light breakfast sandwiches, light lunch, and then my baked goods. And I just started to market around my backyard. I thought from me being out and about everywhere, I just figured people knew me. That's not it. There's a different prowess when it comes to you going to your market and you now being brick and mortar. That's 2 different things. I don't care if I opened up downtown Phoenix and I used to be in Phoenix. it still is a different thing. I'm going to you, that your focus is coming to the farmer's market or First Friday. You're going to that event versus you work during the day, but I'm open during the day and then trying to attract that customer to get to me during my open hours. And so I was broken because I didn't have that understanding in the beginning. And I'm like, why am I only making like $60 today? Or I only made $100 today. Like, this is crazy. I can go out here and within my first 30 minutes, I made the amount of money that pays my rent here for a whole month. This is crazy. Did I make the right choice? I had a dynamic of understanding the difference between brick and mortar and going to the market, and then also about location. The Scottsdale Air Park, where I was located, was in a quaint courtyard building, and it was like people would come in for a muffin and a cup of coffee. They go back to their office, something like that. And I then exercised the understanding about my backyard. I understood that the Scottsdale Air Park is consumed by not only corporations, but more small mom and pop businesses and a lot of auto. So we kind of looked at what my offering was for my lunch menu, kind of beefed it up a little bit. My dad actually helped me out and stepped in to help me cook and create more of a menu. I experimented on my customers I started having, and I started to realize what they liked. And so my menu started to take shape and form of what I knew they enjoyed, and I started to have that. And then I started to see that my baked goods were an attachment sale. So as somebody's buying a turkey pesto panini, meal, they're also now buying apple pie and some cookies. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take this back to the office. Let me get a box of these assorted cookies or whatever else. So I started to notice that instead of me just having this one sale for a muffin for $3, I'm starting to get tickets that are like $25 or $30 or more because they're doing lunch, a drink, and an attachment sale, which was really good because of the fact that, my location wasn't like street front, like on Scottsdale Road or Hayden or anything like that. I was in the air park. And although I'm street front, but I'm street front in an industry. Right. So more people thought I was maybe more to wholesale or whatever. And I noticed that it was continuously trying to figure out how to market. I was still on the street for a period of time. I also launched a food trailer that was of the same name called SugarJam Bake Shop and Bistro. I was using the trailer and going out to food truck roundup events from Gilbert, Peoria, downtown, Old Town Scottsdale, private events. And I was using that time to actually have a menu to market back to my restaurant. And it wasn't until 2017, because I had been open there from 2014, that's September. But 2017 was when me and my dad fully launched brunch, and we started doing it on Saturdays. And then people were like, "You can't do this on Sundays too?" And I was like, "Oh my God." So then we started doing it on Sundays, and I got my husband to be at the restaurant too. And then I started to hire more people, and then I started to get a following. And at my small place, 30 or 40 people, we were packed. And then I asked the landlord, could I use the outdoor courtyard and set up outdoor seating? And he was like, yeah, go ahead. So I had it all decorated, with my yellow and white tables and stuff. And next thing you know, I used to have like 20, 25 people out there. And I'm in this small kitchen, and we are cooking away for like 75 people. And every hour and a half to 2 hours, we had another turn of 75 people. And my bakery was selling out by literally 10:30 in the morning. My bakery sold. I'm trying to refill my bakery so I have more product. And literally by 1 o'clock, it's sold. And by 2:30, we were closed. And I started to notice in this little area that is like hidden, we were really getting a lot of traffic. And then somebody had asked me one day, "Can you cater?" Yeah.
I could do that. I started with that.
I said, okay. So I go to my dad. I said, "Hey, someone wants us for a catering." And he's like, "Oh, on your pastries?" I said, "No, this time it's food." Oh. He was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "What do they want?" I said, "Well, I don't know." And so then I did a consultation to find out like what their event was about, what's their theme. Yeah. Then I created a menu. They loved the menu, and we did a tasting. And then I invoiced them, and then I was like, okay. And I remember that was my first catering. And I think it was about maybe 30 or 40 people. And I was like, wow, we were able to do it. And my right hand was my dad. And then word started to spread. And I got myself to a point, by the time I got to about 2018, I was heavy into catering. So I remember this one gentleman, Jonathan Kaiser, he's pretty big out here. He found out about me, and I catered one of his events that he was having at his home, an appreciation event for all his realtors and stuff like that. And he told me it'll be probably about 300 people. And I'm like, oh my God, 300 people at somebody's house. This is really something. Yeah. It turned out to be 600 people at his house, but we never ran out of food.
How did it happen?
And I estimated, but then I built in like additional, and he came to me and told me, you are the first caterer. Number one, your food is amazing. Number two, you're the first caterer I've ever had that did not run out of food, and that everybody was fed and could have seconds. And I was like, yeah, and I got some stuff left over for you guys to enjoy for your family. And so next thing you know, that was year one. Year two, I told him, I said, I think that this event is a little bit too much for you at home and probably your neighbors.
Yes.
And so he said, yeah, I think next year I'm going to have to go off site. So the next year they booked me again. We went off site. We did it was about 900 people the next year. And same thing, never ran out. And I did everything from all the food, the barbecue, the soul food, the desserts. We did everything.
With how many staff members?
That staff member, I had about 12 people on that. And then we were just, prepping for 2 solid weeks before the event, just getting everything prepped and stored and doing what we needed to do. Then the next following year, that was 2019, we had nearly 1,500 people at the Arizona Center, downtown Phoenix. Governor Ducey at the time, he was there. We had 2 lines. My dad was the main chef on the grills doing the shrimp and the seafood and everything else. And at that point, I had 25 people to help me get this event done. And it was amazing. So I was on a journey to really create SugarJam Catering, and then COVID hit. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because that was a big part of my business. I literally had to re-realize my business. I had to figure out how to pivot. And one of my customers came to me and said, some of your specials that you do, that's like your comfort food, do you ever think that could be something that people can take to go? Because at this time it's so unprecedented that I think people just want comfort. And I said, you know what, I think you're right. And at that point, I had to let go like all my front end staff because we had nobody to service. It was me as my head chef, my head chef, and me being the pastry chef and head chef. And then I had another lady who's my chef, and I had one cook. It was 3 of us. And literally, I told her, because her family is also from the Arkansas area. My grandfather was from Oklahoma and in the Arkansas areas too. And then my grandmother's from Virginia. And I said, you know what, let's take it back home. Let's get this food together. Right. And so we sat down and started to create a wonderful menu of comfort. And I posted it out on my website. We had it on our voice recording, and then our warm network that we had as our database that we were able to send out our marketing to. We sent out email marketing of what we were going to do during this time. And we had an outpour. Our pickups were always on Friday between 3 and 7. It allowed us during the week to get supplies in. We always posted the menu of the week on Monday. People were placing their orders online. They always asked and followed up with an email as to know what are going to be the dessert specialties for the week. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I started selling like whole pies. If you wanted a brownie container with how many brownies are going to come into it, my scones, cookies, this, that, and the other. So each one of the orders that were coming in, I would always call them back to reconfirm their order, and then they would ask me, I want to purchase what are going to be the desserts. So right there over the phone, I'm like, because I have my little square thing, I'm taking their order of the desserts and placing their order for the desserts and then stapling it to their order. And literally, I would start baking on Wednesday all day. My chef would come in on Thursday to get everything prepped and ready to go to be cooking for Friday. We did more revenue from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock on Fridays for food to go than I had been being open from Tuesday to Sunday in my restaurant.
What did that tell you? What did you learn from that?
I learned that it was time for me to expand. And it was time for me not to be scared. And it was time for me to take a leap of faith. And, you know, when things are kind of down, a lot of times, you know, we get in our own way because of the uncertainty. But in business, when things are down, it's time to actually launch and do something. It's kind of hard to do things when everything's up because all your pricing up, everything's up. But things are down and things are unshaky. This is the time to try to launch with something because more people are going to be more understanding because there was businesses closing left and right. Restaurants were closing, never opening up again. And I saw this opportunity where I could probably get into finally get to street front because the timing was just weird because my lease was expiring. I was now on a month to month, and I was literally looking within my area. I had already looked downtown Phoenix. I looked in this area. But I didn't feel like those places were home for me because I was used to the Scottsdale Air Park. I'm used to my backyard. Yeah. I didn't want to leave. And lo and behold, the location that I'm currently in was actually available. The management there, the ownership, people of faith, they're just wonderful. And what I gave them as my proposal was real facts. You don't have anyone in there now. We are in an unprecedented time. I know what I could bring to the table now. And I could say I could safely grow what I know I could fill here. You're 2 to 3 times bigger there, but I know I could at least fill that up by 50%. If you work with me not as a landlord but as a partner, I can guarantee that I will be successful. And what I projected for my first year going in there, I actually exceeded that number within 6 months. And I was like, all these years I was around the corner and I wonder what it would be like to hit a number like this. And I did it in 6 months in the pandemic. And I was like, wow. And, Governor Ducey, God bless him. He was just, I love him. And I think that the way that he maneuvered Arizona really allowed for us not to have a super amount of failure as other states.
With the
businesses. He did something right there. We all took precaution. We did the best that we could. But I couldn't believe the numbers that were happening. And I think we were in a time that people being pent up were just so like, I will throw 3 masks on. I just want to get out.
Yes.
Sit me in that corner over there. I just want to get out,
Yeah.
The hardest part during that time, I would say, was just really going through an expansion, but also trying to find help. We had the unprecedented stuff with that PPP stuff, people on endless unemployment. So it made us not really have enough people to work. I was fortunate enough to be able to transition over with the people that I had at my first place. And then once we got to a 50% open, in my first location, I was able to hire back some of the people. And then once we got to a point when we were going to transition and I'm building out the other place and open, they came with me. And crazy enough, when I made my posting, it was those people that actually weren't receiving the PPP, they didn't get approved for this unemployment, that were really looking for work and couldn't find it, that those were the people that were with me at SugarJam. I even got a lot of people that were like literally fleeing from California. There was no work. They didn't get certain subsidies, and they were coming into Arizona. And you know what's crazy? I have a good handful of people that were with me from the time my doors opened in my second location that are still with me today. I have certain people that were with me in my first location that are still with me today. You're talking about certain people that have been with me since 2018, 2019, and also since 2021. And it's kind of amazing because in the restaurant industry, you're lucky that you get people to stay for 2 months, 3 months, 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But I have people that have been with me for several years. I have people that have been with me for like 7-8 months of the newer people, and others have been with me 1.5 years, almost 2 years. So that's a lot of longevity, which is great because it helps you grow a great business, a good foundation without having to stop, restart. I got new people. Oh my gosh, you know what's going on. So I really appreciate my SugarJam family for really holding us down through a time frame that we're seeing the opposite side of, obviously, the pandemic, but coming through the pandemic and being a newer business. Although I had roots, here with SugarJam as the brand and a long history, but going into bigger shoes of a 5,000 square foot restaurant, coming from less than 2,000 square feet and thinking I just know because I had a bakery and cafe. Yeah. What I thought I knew to what I really didn't know. And that's the thing of being humble and saying, you know what, I don't know everything and I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to resource to find my answers. Some things are trial and error, and but I'm a person that I do my homework. You know what, this may be a better solution. I've read about this with this restaurateur. Let's give it a try, and then kind of making our prowess of our own book that works for my business.
Dana, we said it all started with the cookie.
I know.
What a journey it's been.
I know.
And you could hear as you tell your story about how kind of these years in corporate that seemed like very numbers jobs really benefited you as a businesswoman navigating these roads.
Yeah.
But you always had a joy of cooking, even as a little girl. That was part of your life. Tell me about that cookie and that recipe, Grandma.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. Like I said, my grandparents, they owned 2 restaurants in Harlem, New York. My mom said before I was born, and by the time I was about 3, they were getting tired and older. And the restaurant industry, even back then, would be like it could beat you up.
Yeah.
And my grandmother just said, I think it's time for us to sell. And so they sold the businesses. But I always knew my grandmother was such an excellent cook. Like, I love going to Grandma's house. We used to do these Thursday night dinners with Grandma. And then on the weekend, it was always Sunday brunch. And at that time, we didn't say brunch. We knew it was our get-together, our breakfast, but it would be after church. And, I always remember my grandmother always made me my fried apples and her popovers and her grits and her shrimp and everything. And it was something I always look forward to, my Thursday nights and being time with my family on Sundays. My dad, oh my gosh, his former life was an iron worker in actually New Jersey. And, but his other passion was always cooking. And I know we say foodie now, but my dad had been a foodie from way back when. And he always taught me to eat, not fast paced. You eat to taste your food. Because unlike baking, food, you can break down those notes and understand those flavors. And as I grew up, I was starting to develop my palate through my dad and being able to have the ability to recreate a meal based upon the notes that I'm tasting, because you can add a little bit of this or take this away or whatever with food on the savory side versus the baking. Baking is finite. So when you make a mistake, it's done, you throw it out or whatever. But I watched my dad, and my dad would always talk through his recipes. Being an only child, in some ways I was spoiled here and there because of the cooking and stuff, and my mom was like a big cleaning person. But I think subconsciously I took in what my dad was doing and then watching my grandmother too. My mother is more of a sweet person. And so being in New York, we would be on the weekends, we'd always meet up with my aunt, my mom's younger sister, and we would have our shopping Saturdays. And so that always encompassed, outside of shopping, we would stop to some of our favorite bakeries. And one of the bakeries I used to love, they were, and I want to say they may have been more of an Austrian bakery, but there was this tender cookie. It was always in a heart shape and it had this little bit of jam in the middle, and it was like a little hole that it looked like a piece of glass, but it was the jam. Right. And I used to love these little cookies, and when he would see us come, he would be ready, and I would always get a free couple of cookies because he always would remember me, my mom, and my aunt. And that's the cookie that actually started me.
The Sugar Jam.
The Sugar Jam.
Yeah.
I didn't call it Sugar Jam.
What'd you call it?
It was just Dana's Cookies.
Yeah.
It was
That
like
works
Dana's
too.
Cookies, yeah. And you know, it's crazy. I actually started it. One Valentine's Day, I had made the cookies when I used to work in New York. I worked for Federated Merchandising Group, which is Macy's corporate. I was a merchandising assistant. I used to write strategies and plans for the men's tailored pants and shoes division. And one Valentine's Day, I wanted to make these cookies for everybody. So I brought them in and gave everybody a half a dozen cookies that were in my group. And they were like, these are good cookies. And I was like, thanks. And they were like, you should have your own bakery. And I was like, you know, I'm in New York. You know, it's crazy out here. And the next year, my husband took orders at his job for the cookies, and I took orders. And my divisional vice president, crazy enough, if this is not an omen, his sister lived in Scottsdale.
Oh.
He ordered cookies to be shipped to Scottsdale, Arizona. At that point, I didn't think I was moving here. I didn't, wasn't thinking about it. And so sure enough, here we are years later after my life in fashion. I ended up moving out here in '02 and got into the NASCAR industry. And I would only bake these cookies for like Thanksgiving, somebody's birthday or whatever else. Never did I think that I was going to create a company that was based off of this cookie. And when I first started off in the local farmers market, downtown Phoenix in 2011, December, I had 3 flavors. It was raspberry, apricot, and strawberry. And those were the jams that were mostly available at the supermarket. And it wasn't until I networked through the farmer's market that I found people who were making their own jams from scratch and had all these flavors. Next thing you know, within about a year's time, I had like 20 flavors of cookies. Yeah. And then it was hard for me to keep up with all the different flavors. So I had to look at my sales, and I kept my ledger, my sales report. And I said, okay, I'm going to go with like my top 5 flavors. And then what I was doing with the jams that I would get, I was starting to take these essential extracts, and I would get like passion fruit, and I would get amaretto, and I started to flavor the jams differently. And I started to create all these different flavors based upon the jam with the cookies. And I remember my very first event. I became friends with Carrie Schneff.
No.
And my first event was the Peach Fest at her farm.
Oh, wonderful.
And with her jams, I came down. She invited me to come down a couple of days before the event, wanted me to taste her jams. Yes. And I was like, these jams are spectacular.
Her peaches are awesome, aren't they? Oh, so good.
And so what I did is, she had different flavors. And so what I did is take her jams, I had them back at home, and then I would flavor with my other little things and add this and the other. And I was using her jams, and I started to do a wholesale deal to use her jams and stuff like that with a couple other people in the farmers market too. And but that was my first event. But I literally, it all started from there, and I would have never thought in a million years I would be where I'm at today based upon 3 cookies, 3 flavors, that I started with. But I think the journey, if you understand the pivot, it makes the journey more exciting. People that are singularly focused means that your business is not going to grow. You have to understand that in business, there's going to be dips and pivots and hills and mountains and valleys and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, you yourself have to be, number one, passionate about what you do. You have to understand what the prowess is about entrepreneurship. There's going to be some wins and there's going to be some losses, but in those losses, what is the lessons that you learn to help you pivot so that way you can build a better business? Understanding your demographic is really the biggest key. If I said to you I had 20 flavors and it's hard for me to keep up, but only these top 5 are the best sellers, then why do I keep doing the 20 flavors? I need to concentrate on the top 5, make more of that, because that's what's selling, right? And not doing what is not selling. And even during the time of COVID, trying to understand my business and how I'm going to survive, I had to understand the pivot. So that one suggestion from that customer allowed me to rethink my business of something I wasn't thinking about,
Doing the comfort food.
And doing the comfort food, which then launched me to say that based upon my background and my grandparents being from the South, even at that time, my head chef, her parents, she is actually from the South, that there's something in that's a part of the comfort, right? And lo and behold, there came my brand SugarJam, but then the Southern Kitchen. And that's an ode to my family. Yeah. And you know, in the Southern Kitchen, there is nothing there that is overbose. You know, we're a comfortable atmosphere. The food is of comfort there. We're not fine dining. We're comfortable dining. And, you know, every business has their days. You know, we get people that call out this, that, and the other. There's times I'm jumping back on the line, you know, whatever. As far as my first 2 years in the Southern Kitchen, people seen me in that kitchen every day. Every weekend, sweating it out, you know, headband on. And there's nothing that today that I don't do at my restaurant. You'll still see me if you need me, jump on the line. You still see me if you need me, jump back into baking. There's times that I've been the bar back because the bar back didn't show up and I'm trying to make sure your dishes are clean, you know, and I like to get out and touch on the people that are helping us be successful. I have people that are traveling, oh my gosh, from far and wide. They're coming with their luggage. We heard about you in Atlanta. We heard about you in New York. We're here from Detroit. We're here from here and here. And I'm like, wow, it's spreading and it's crazy. But the part about that is that, you know, I feel so overjoyed and I feel so blessed that people are knowing about us across America. And I'm also seeing, you know, a trend happening of a lot of brunch places that are opening up and they have a DJ and they want to vibe and they have the, you know, comfort food and stuff like that. So I hope that my story with the Southern Kitchen has spawned maybe a part of this trend that is happening across America. But I know that every day that I'm open, you know, where I'm open in North Scottsdale and being the only woman of color to own a restaurant such as I do, that I'm making history here in this state for representation, that saying that we can, a person of color can, a woman can, of any color, but women can be successful in their own right, and to journey and know that if we have the certain support, we can be great, you know. And I hope that there's young girls that can follow in my footsteps. You know, I hope that I'm teaching something. You know,
do you mentor? You seem like
I do mentor. You know, I want people to follow their dreams. There's no one going to ever be with you forever. But I always ask, you know, what are some of your dreams and aspirations that you may have for yourself? And a lot of times, like one of my guys, he one day wants to open up and have his own bar. Okay, so what are you going to take away from here? So that means that you need to do this, this, and this, and you need to be watching and being responsible. Somebody else wants to be more in the health industry where he's going to be like more of a therapeutic guy that does like physical therapy. And it's funny because his fiance now is into holistic. So she does like guided meditation and stuff like that. So we got the group together and we did a meditation night with her to help her new business as another woman-owned business. And he's trying to help his soon-to-be wife with her business. And then as they join together, I think they're going to have, I think I could see them having their own facility that does like physical therapy, meditation, yoga, and stuff like that. And it's very inspiring. I have another chef. She's my catering chef, but she's always been a person that likes more fine dining catering. But she's also very holistic about health. And she's trying to do her own line of being intentional and having her candles and having like her clothing line and stuff like that. I champion for that, you know. So, hey, if you want to sell your candles at my gift shop, let's sell your candles at my gift shop. Let people know about you. I'm not one to stop anyone. I hope that I have a door that allows it to be open. My other head chef, I mean, she's a powerhouse. You know, she could be voicey and saucy as her name is, but I'm giving her the right as a woman of color to have reign over your kitchen. It's SugarJam is me. It's my entity,
Right.
but I'm giving you your kitchen.
Yeah.
That a lot of times in this male-dominated industry, we do not see us as women being represented as leaders and being able to lead a restaurant. You know, we're normally plating, saucing, prepping and doing the muscle. But really the ingenuity behind a lot of the support behind a lot of these men is all women. And our percentage in this restaurant industry is like 3% of women that are owners, that are heads or executives. It's like 3%. And this is across America. So I'm giving her a lane where, what do you want to do this week? What's your special? You know what I mean? Like, and she's leading the way. And I find it that it's, I see that there's a little bit of difficulty when we do get sometimes a new employee that sometimes they're men and taking direction from a woman and stuff like that. So there are some things in there that we have to work through as women. But I see the success, the opposite side of it.
Let's talk about SugarJam, the Southern Kitchen. When you come there, what will you experience? What will you eat?
Oh, well, you'll experience the music by DJ Freshmaker every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We like to groove. We like to dance. We like to have fun. We like to fellowship. Our food is Southern influenced. So you'll have, on the weekends, we have our Creole shrimp and grits with fried lobster tails. We have the lobster mac and cheese. People like the catfish with grits. We do a beautiful roux gravy with the grits as well. Salmon croquettes is one of my grandmother's recipes that I have tweaked just a little bit, but that we have that. Our fresh biscuits, our buttery biscuits. People love our Grand Marnier marinated French toast, which is one of the recipes my dad had made for me since I was growing up. I tweaked it just a little bit, but we have that. We have waffles and fried chicken. So it's a lot of comfort foods there. People enjoy it. Like I said, we're a place that people can feel at home and not feeling in a situation where things are too much pretense, We just want people to have fun and be comfortable being in their own skin and feel like they're a part of my family, which people don't realize that they are. This is an extension of who I am, and the humbleness, the family orientation. You really know that we do feel for one another the way that we interact. And I have so many customers that are like, I've been watching you guys. You guys like give each other hugs and stuff like that, and it feels like you guys are family. And I said, well, we are. It's the SugarJam family, and we really care for one another. They do a lot of events outside of work. They have volleyball nights. They have Taco Tuesdays. One of my other chefs, he's just posted his Taco Tuesday. Get your birria tacos or whatever. We have nights that we do like in the summertime, like pool nights and stuff. One Christmas, I took the staff up. I rented a very big house up in Flagstaff, and we went on a ski trip. And those that didn't want skiing went ice skating, and I rented that for a couple of days. And we cooked chili together and stuff. There's nice things that we do together. So,
well, as you were talking about your childhood, the shopping Saturdays and the Sunday brunches after church sound amazing, and this is kind of an extension.
It is.
Of
it
that.
Really is that. And then it's funny because my grandfather's sister, my Aunt Mabel, she was a trained patisserie chef, and trained at the Cordon Bleu, one of the first black women of the Cordon Bleu in France. And she resided in California, but when she would travel to visit us for Thanksgiving, I remember I was a little girl, and she was so regal with what she wore, because back then people actually dressed up to get on a plane, but she was really old school. And I remember her coming. My mom's eldest sister, my Aunt Cheryl, she would usually host the Thanksgivings, and I remember my Aunt Mabel coming, and she rolled out her knives. I had never seen that before. Someone coming in and rolled out their knives, and I was like, ooh. And then she had this other bag that was all her pastry kit, and she would make these 7-Up cakes that were light as air, and I would watch her, and I'm like, but I loved eating those cakes, man. They were good. And then I would watch my mom's eldest sister, because she could cook too, and she would make these an oyster stuffing, like stuffed mushrooms and stuff. As a little kid, I didn't like the mushrooms, but I loved the stuffing. And she would let me help her do things. And I remember when I was a newlywed, she said, well, this Thanksgiving is your first one, and you're going to host it.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? I'm used to coming to your house. What are you talking about? And so she's like, nope, you got it. You let us know what you want us to bring, and it's going to be your experience. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember that first Thanksgiving, our apartment, we thought it was big because, we were back east, so we thought our apartment was big. Mm-hmm. It was about 1,200 square feet.
Right.
We had about 25 people in our house for that first Thanksgiving. And I remember I made a cream of collard green soup. I made my aunt's stuffing. My dad did the turkey because I was like, listen, y'all are just too much.
Yeah.
And I made candy yams and my mac and cheese. And my aunt made a couple of things and other people brought a couple of things. But it was a lot of fun. And that was my first experience of like cooking like for bigger
mass people.
Yeah, a lot of people. But it was fun. But that gave me a feeling of what I liked and what I enjoyed about watching people eat my food that I made with my hands. And that was always in the back of my mind. And I like that feeling. It's a feeling for me of love. It's a feeling that, it's an art form that is from us. It's being passed down and trying the traditions and knowing that you made this from your hands and that somebody else is enjoying what you put forth. And so for me, coming full circle with SugarJam, we get such a crowd. So if I tell you on a Saturday that we serviced, we may have about 400 reservations, but we try to accept what walk-ins we can. So, in one day, we're cooking for almost 700 people inside of a window from 9 to 3. To do that takes a lot, and we have a small staff. But to know on the opposite side of the appreciation, and then I see the Instagram posts later of like all the clicks and this, that, and the other, that this is 5, this is 10 out of 10. I'm like, wow. I'm still in awe of the creation of this menu that I put forth and that the execution is happening. And honestly, I just got back from a vacation for spring break with my kids, and my restaurant's running. It's running without me. And I'm like, sometimes I come in and I'm like, okay, where do you guys need me? What do you need me to? I don't know. What do you want to do? Like, you just need to get out and walk around. Well, you don't need anything from me. I feel weird and I feel bad.
And then successful.
But then I feel like, I guess this is a part of the success. Like something is running like it's supposed to without me.
Right.
So I've done something right, that they're resourceful enough that if you have an escalation, you know how to de-escalate it. Right. You know how to resolve an issue. You know how to get the ordering done and all these different things that move the needle. So then, where does that leave me? That leaves me where I'm need to start something else now.
Uh-oh, what's that?
I think that the brunch game for me right now, I think as I look at brunch, it's very popular. I'm not going to say it's a trend, but I just think it's very popular. Right. Mm-hmm. I think it's becoming a little saturated. So I think I'm turning an angle where I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do another brunch, but I do miss when we used to have dinners. Oh. It was just the fact that our staff was too small to execute, and we were coming off of brunches and trying to flip the kitchen for dinner. It's just too much. But to have maybe a separate entity that would be more going towards the evening may satisfy me. And plus, I'm really into like the liquor scene, like the cocktail scene right now.
It's booming here in Phoenix. Isn't it nuts?
It's nuts, but it's what, and this is where I'm saying, because I watch what's happening. It's what the brunch market was doing just about 2 to 3 years ago, when you kind of just seen everybody say, oh my God, you were used to do dinner, now you're doing brunch. Like, why? But you're doing it, right? It's now where the cocktail scene is, because cocktails now are rivaling plates. So how we see plates like used to look like like this is how the cocktails are. Now they're smoking, they're this. How garnished are they? The glassware and their composure. There are bartenders, they're like mixologists, and they are like so far thinking. They're these people that literally when they're composing a drink, there are ingredients that they're actually cooking, they're doing things, there's these ingredients that are just as composed as your meal. And you didn't even realize there's about 15 components to this drink that make this drink what it is for you to taste these different notes. And I'm very intrigued by that. You know, it kind of takes me back to my dad when I was eating and telling me, don't eat to eat, you eat to taste the notes. But these drinks are composed of different notes and there's layers, and I find it very fascinating. So I don't know, I think it's like a pairing of the two, but on my other culinary side, outside of the brunch world, I'm very fascinated by other things I've tasted in my palate that I would love to get out that is not like breakfast focused,
right.
you know? So we never know.
Coming soon.
Some
from
more
Dana.
coming soon. I wish I had the to tell you the surprise, but certain things don't always work out the way you want them. But there's something coming.
But understand the pivot.
This understanding the pivot.
Is that what you would tell people who are starting a business? What would you tell someone who's looking at you, going, "How can I do something, in my realm?"
I would tell them, number one is to create a foundation, create your business plan, so you have some logic as to what it is that you want to do. Experiment if it's a service, if it's a product, if it's something in cooking or whatever else. Experiment with your friends, experiment with your family. Tell them, actually, you're going to have to, because you got to build up a better skin. Right. Tell them to be honest with you about what their thoughts are, because you will get shattered if a customer tells you, you know what, I don't like this, or this is not what I was thinking, because I'm from here and that's not how we do it. Okay, well, we're here and everybody's from somewhere else. So everybody's palates are going to be a little bit different. So what you may think is fantastic may not resonate with 2 or 3 people. And it is what it is. You have to have the thicker skin for someone able to tell you, no, I didn't like this. Doesn't mean your stuff is not good. It means that they themselves didn't like it. And what they're projecting on you, you got to have a harder shell to not internalize that and let that take you off your course. God has put you in a way to be on course. And so at the end of the day, I always will tell a person is, number one, figure out what it is that you want to do. Number 2, get your business plan together. Number 3, use your warm network first to experiment on them and see what results are. Number 4, I would say before you invest into any brick and mortar, try the street first.
You mean the festivals. I love how you call it the street.
Oh, I call it the street. But try those festivals and
the
try
farmers markets.
Those farmers markets. That's the bread and butter, because you are going out to create your demographic. You're going out to create your customer base. And people want to link with people. They want to know your story, because how do I connect and spend my dollar locally to support this emerging new business and what I see from it? And the thing is, you need to evolve. If you're in the market from month 1, where will you be in month 12? Will you just have the same exact product? Did you analyze your data to know that this is what's selling because all the other stuff is not? Did you analyze that, say, if, hey, you know what, I had a comment and maybe, you know what, that person may work in corporate and that's fine, but they're letting you know that, say, hey, did you ever think if you tweak this a little bit that maybe this could be a little better? It's not something that's negative. It's something to try to help you. They may not be in your arena, but sometimes these different jewels that get dropped to you may help you in your business. Do you know how many jewels were dropped to me by so many different people from different walks of life, that I've used these little jewels to make me look at my business differently, look at my products and services that I'm providing, and adapt that? And some of these things turned out to help me to be where I'm at. And I will also always tell entrepreneurs too that, there's going to be times when you're going to feel like you just want to give up. It's in those times that is how strong are you, is understanding how strong you are. Because those people that give up, they're not meant to go further. Those people that don't give up and they make it across that mountain, that's where the other side is. And it always comes at that 9th hour when you are just questioning yourself and asking yourself, why am I doing this? Is it really meant for me? I've had this happen or that happen. Understand why those things happen and learn from them. Adjust your business, learn the pivot so that you can move forward and get over that mountain. Because that's where the real growth is and the successes that you will see. And even to this day, people ask me, like, do you feel you're successful? Yes and no. my mom asks me, she asks me this all the time.
Mama.
I say yes and no. I think as a serial entrepreneur, and now I'm in the restaurateurship, I think the success that I see is the fact I'm able to create jobs. I'm able to have people afford their livelihoods. That for me is successful.
Yeah, that's huge.
I've witnessed a wedding. I witnessed births. I witnessed people buying their first houses, cars, and it's coming from our backs that have made SugarJam what it is. I feel successful when I see happy faces in my restaurant and that people are pouring in to support this local restaurant that is run by a woman.
And coming to you.
Right?
Yeah.
So that to me is successful. Yeah. Successful is me seeing my twin boys that are 1 year older than my business. My business is the only girl I have. So they're 1 year older. So for me, success is for them to see me still striving, still with it, because I hope that this foundation is laying something in them to have the perseverance for whatever they want to do, is that you stick with what it is that is your idea or whatever task that you want to do, that you see it through until the end. Don't leave things unfinished. Right? Because it's just like giving up. Like you didn't see it all the way through to say, no, I don't want to do it anymore. But I think it's not money, because people get it confused that, oh, I'm in it because I'm trying to get X, Y, and Z. Those things will come if that's your desire for a watch, a ring, a belt, a bag, or whatever else. That's your desire. That's your material that you feel that you want to reward yourself. But that doesn't deem you to be successful. Success is in the people that are around you, the joy that you see, the mark on life that you're creating, the mark in time and history that you're putting forth, and the happiness that exudes from the people around you that are supporting you in your business. That's success. Because somebody could have millions of dollars, but then all of a sudden close their business tomorrow because the people stop coming.
Yeah.
Success is in the people that support your business and that you thank God for them every single day. So that's what I see as success.
Definitely a successful woman, and passionate about the people.
Yes.
And your baking and your food, and then obviously a very brilliant mind when it comes to your business side as well. Dana Dumas of SugarJam, the Southern Kitchen. Thank you.
Jaime.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to Jamie's Local Love, the podcast. I'm your host, Jaime Serretta. Our technician is Tom Heidinger. Our editors are Lorraine Shearing and Gina Coy. Do you know a business worthy of some local love? Email me at jserretta@azfamily.com. Follow us at facebook.com/Serretta and Instagram @SerrettaNews. Make sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star review, please. And tell your friends about the podcast and the businesses we feature to show your local love. You can find us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Jamie's Local Love, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.